Welcome back, everyone. We're happy to bring you the finished, start to finish basement dig out on this mansion that we recently did. Our last video has been doing so well. We heard all the feedback from the last one to do a little bit of a voiceover. So I will be hopping in and out of here voicing over what exactly is going on, just to give you guys a little bit of narration and some clarity in what we exactly do for these basement dig outs. As always, please like and subscribe if you like the content. We enjoy pushing this out for you guys. We love sharing what we do, sharing our craft. This is something that not many people do, especially handing out these basements. So it's really fun to share this with you guys, get you guys' feedback, see what you think, as well as educate you guys on the process. So with that said, I'll be jumping in here, like I said, doing a little bit of talking and let you guys know what's going on. So enjoy. Alright, so the first things first, we get all the dirt out. So on this one, we're taking the floor down a good, I want to say, 1 foot to 2 feet. So not too much. It's a little bit of a small basement dig out. We do have to excavate a large amount of this back room, however. You may have seen it earlier. They're breaking and breaching a wall to the crawl space in the back. We'll show more of that here in a second with our second angle. But really, when it comes to basement dig outs, it's all about just removing all this excess dirt for the first step. And then once you have some nice room and more room to work with, you'll start working on more of your structural components of the job. As you can see here, the guys have brought down a conveyor belt. This helps a lot with moving dirt out rapidly. Super effective, super efficient. It beats hand digging and bringing them out by buckets, which we do not recommend at all. That is the slowest way to do it. So if you can, get a conveyor if you're going to do any sort of basement dig out. So you can see they brought the conveyor down right here and they put the bucket on. From here they just shovel all the excess material out, and then we have a second team that loads it into a dumpster, and then it's taken off and the process is just repeated. You can see too, it gets pretty dusty down there when a lot of dirt's getting kicked up. So we do recommend our guys to wear some masks here and there when they're doing a lot of particulate gets in the air, just for safety purposes, because you can see it gets pretty smoky. Now here's that back room I was talking about. They just tore down, they just excavated this wall. Did some demolition right here. They're breaking into this crawl space. There's a crawl space area back there that they're going to excavate, and it's going to extend the square footage of this basement back into that room. Another thing you might see here is we got fans all over the place here. Ventilation is very important in this. Like I said earlier, with the particulate getting in there with all the dust and stuff, it's really important to get that out as quickly as possible. You don't want any problem with lungs or anything like that, as well as it can get really hot and really cold. This was mostly done in the winter/springtime, so it's starting to warm up here in Denver. So we had the fans running, blowing some cool air in. It can get pretty hot down there, especially on some hotter days. So nice ventilation is always good. Here we move the camera into that back room. You can see that that's probably roughly 6 feet of dirt from the base floor, and they're going to go down even deeper than that. So roughly this will be 8 to 9 feet of dirt excavated in terms of height for this section. This was a really nice job because you can see we had this main room that was already pretty open, which is super nice because you already have a really easy and workable staging area that you can move equipment and just have places to put dirt. Because some of the ones like our previous one that we did, you kind of have to squeeze guys in one at a time at the beginning just to get a nice size staging area ready. But on this one, we could get all the guys in as soon as possible and get to work quickly. You can see here too, there's some piping in the way that the guys got to be careful of right here on the bottom part of the screen here. See a little bit of that piping. Now here's what I was talking about in this main room. We're going around down to about 1 or 2 feet in total from the main room that you can see there. That was a really good angle of showing that off. And then later here on the week, I'm going to move the camera to the corner and you'll be able to see the back room better that they're digging out. We just are limited by the amount of cameras we have recording. So unfortunately, I don't have that good of footage at the beginning of this back room, but I will move it eventually and you'll be able to see that a lot better. So back to the main room here, you can see the wood pillars that we got holding up the building. These are crucial just for structural integrity. You really want to make sure that the building throughout this whole process is stable and there's no chance of the building collapsing in it at all. So safety is a #1 priority when we do these jobs. So that's what I was talking about with the moved angle. You can see in the back room over there, you get a really good shot of what they're really excavating back there. Here you can see all the dirt just comes out. This job was really nice because it's more of a sandy material, which is really easy to shovel. On our last dig out that we did, it was a lot harder just because the dirt was more clayish. So the guys had to bring in some more heavy equipment to pummel out all the dirt. But this has been super nice, just sandy materials, shovels and shovels, super easy to get out. You can see here they're bringing in some more posts just to better stabilize the building above us since we just dug down right where those posts were. All things considered as well, we get a lot of questions while we do hand digging. And hand digging is really nice, especially when you have a big crew like we do of like 6 or 7 guys. It's pretty equal to just having a skid steer or a small excavator down there. And especially when the material is super easy to work with, like the sanding material on this job, there's really just, it's more economical to do it hand digging than it is with a skid steer, because you have to consider when we bring a skid steer or something down there, we have to do some saw cutting to actually get it in there, as well as dig a ramp down from the outside into the basement. So there's a lot more work in getting a skid steer down there, and there's also the risk of fumes on the smaller excavators since they run off gasoline. So all in all, we just prefer the hand dig outs more. Plus, anyone can do them, so if you watch our videos enough, you might be able to get some good tips on how to do your own basement. But let me tell you, it is no easy work. This is some intense labor. The extra guys definitely helps. If you're going to do this solo, you're looking at a nice yearly gym membership. All right, so this is a really good angle of the back room there. You can see that they added in a good amount of square footage to the basement back there. Yeah, so in the beginning, it can get pretty repetitive. It's just really just moving dirt out of the basement and making room for the footers and stuff. This one has been super nice though, because it is a large basement in terms of square footage. However, since this main room was already half excavated, it makes our job a whole of a lot easier in terms of digging, especially when you just have such good access. So in that back room back there, since the guys were able to just have so much area to get 3 guys in there digging at the same time, that was able to get dug out pretty fast as well, so that was nice. Alright, you may be able to see it here. The guy just spray painted an AB on all the walls around the perimeter of this. So that's referring to the placement of the footers. So that's the order that we're going to pour the footers in. And like I said before, that's just for the structural integrity and just holding up the building above us. That way it just doesn't collapse in on us, because that's never fun or a good thing to have on the job site. So in seeing the left right there, they're doing their first footer over there on the left. You can see that little hole that they just dug. So now we're starting to get into the concrete pouring, which is awesome. Nice to see some progress being made. And here comes Quikrete. So we like to use Quikrete on our jobs just because it's really easy to get into tight spaces, and you can mix it in a wheelbarrow, which is nice. So when you have a nice open area like we do on this basement, you can pretty much just have your little mixing zone right next to where you need to pour. So it makes efficiency go through the roof, which is awesome. So the footers are starting to come in here. You can see the guys working fast, getting those poured. They're doing the B ones, I want to say, first, or maybe that's an A. I think that's an A. So you can see they just did the A on the right side there first, but they left the 2 B spaces next to it open, and those are going to be done at a later date when the A sections have cured. Here's another angle of that, this time from the, I want to call it the patio side, since it looks like a little patio in the basement. So you may have noticed that they pour the footer slab first, and then they pour the footer wall. And that's just usually how we do it. It makes it easier in terms of sequencing these, because you're able to let the slab cure first, and then you can come in and just use some different forms to hold back the footer wall. All right, you can see they're picking up their pace here. Some vapor barrier right here, that's that yellow material. That pretty much is it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a vapor barrier, so it keeps any moisture from entering the basement, helps reduce any moisture entering the basement. You can see here they're bringing even more bags of concrete in. Then I always like to joke around on our videos just about how much concrete bags we use because when you're in this basement, it doesn't look like you're going to be pouring that much concrete in terms of footer area. But let me tell you, these bags of concrete add up pretty damn fast. So it's always funny to see just how many bags of concrete we bring into these basements. You might have caught a glimpse of it. These guys are cutting rebar down here too to scale, so they can put them in the footers as well. It's very important that anything that you're doing for structural integrity has a lot of strength and durability to it. That is something that we try to do on all of our jobs, is if it's going to be structural, we make sure that it is as strong as possible. You can see some cinder blocks here on the right. So those are actually going to go in the back because the homeowner didn't want to dig out the entirety of their crawl space. They just wanted a little bit of an extra room back there. So we're going to build up a reinforced wall just to hold back all the excess material in the basement. And then we're going to backfill that wall just so they can maintain their crawl space. I'll pop a video of that in right now so you can see what that looks like. During this stage, the job site gets pretty messy just because we have forms everywhere, we have concrete bags everywhere, we have vapor barrier. So it's a pretty messy stage of the job. So when you have a nice open area like this where you can put everything, it makes life so much easier. because during the same time as this one, we had a super cramped basement we were doing. And let me tell you, in terms of storage, that one was a tricky one. There was just stuff lying everywhere, it looked like a mess. There was columns everywhere since there was a 2-story structure that we were building under, so there's a lot of weight. So we had to do a lot of columns, a lot of pillars. So yeah, a job like this is amazing to have, where you can just have space. Space is awesome. You can see it right there in the back. There's that brick wall I was talking about. Yeah, but hopefully you see from this video, it doesn't really take much to dig out a basement, right? We just use pretty basic stuff that you can get at Home Depot. We got quick bags, some wheelbarrows, some shovels, and a conveyor, which you can find pretty much, if you did some research, pretty easy to find some nice conveyors for this type of thing. And on this one, it was kind of nice. We only used one just because it was already pretty easy to work with. There wasn't too much restriction in access points, so only one conveyor for this massive job. So yeah, in terms of basement digouts, they're definitely not the hardest thing to do, but it can get tricky at times depending on the house. And manpower goes a long way on these kind of jobs. So the more guys you have, the faster it's going to go. All right, so you can see they're forming up that porch area right there that I was talking about earlier. And about that, so they just poured this, right? But you'll notice in the future they actually come back and they have to demo that because the plans changed, which is really unfortunate. It's one of the biggest things that we have to worry about on these jobs, especially when we like working fast, is sometimes we work faster than the actually contractor that we're working for, and then plans change, and that can be kind of frustrating. So you might catch a glimpse of it. I'll see if I catch it later, but we're gonna have to demo what we just poured, which is never any fun. Cuts into our profits, which is also never fun. And the nice part about this main room, as well as only digging down 2 feet, I want to say, is the footers that we're actually pouring are relatively small, all things considered. So these nice little small footers are really nice just because super easy to get to. It's great. All right, this is a really good angle of how they did the footers right here. You can see on the left side, he just dug a footer hole right there. It's nice and lit up now. And so pretty much what they're gonna do is they're gonna put their rebar in, put some vapor barrier in, then they're gonna pour their footer slab. And then once that's cured, they're gonna put their forms for the footer wall, and then they're gonna pour that. So a super simple process in terms of actually pouring footers. Footers are super easy, and we've gotten so accustomed to doing digouts that our footer work is pretty phenomenal. So footers are great, we love them. So you might notice that they're leaving all that sand back there near the entrance, and they're going to do that because they're going to take some of that to backfill the crawl space that we were talking about earlier. So they're just leaving some material back, that way we don't have to pipe any more back in. So you can see the guys looking back there. So if we need some, we have it right there, easily accessible, and we don't have to bring it back in when we just took it out. No need to do the same task twice. So we're just leaving it right there for now until we need it in the back room. And you can see right there, they just poured that footer slab right there. Now it's doing its thing. It's gonna go ahead and cure. And then once that's cured, you can see they put the footer form over there. You might have noticed too, we brought in a concrete mixer. These things are super nice as well. Just a little bit easier to mix the concrete. Some of the guys like using the concrete mixer than just doing it in the wheelbarrow. So it's just personal preference, but wheelbarrow trick works phenomenal on these jobs. So you can see there, they brought the conveyor back to that backfill area, and they're just taking all that dirt from the original pile and they're just pumping it back up over there to backfill that wall. And then whatever's left, they're gonna pipe out through the main entrance, and then we should have the rest of the dirt out of this place. You can see on the right side there, they're doing another footer. Getting it ready, getting it dug, and ready to get poured. And this is what I was talking about. If you look on the perimeter of the job, you can just see how much stuff is laying around. You got cords, you got water bottles, you got fans, you got forms laying around. So when you have space on a job, I can't say this enough times, it makes your life so much easier. Especially coming from a job that we just did where we have no space. This is a blessing to have. You can see right here, they're doing some more footer work. So you can see they poured that first one before, that one's already done. Now they're doing the ones right immediately next to that one. So they did their A's, now they're working on their B's in that section. If you've made it this far in the video, let me know what you guys think. Do you like these voiceovers that we do? Do you like the pacing of the video? Let us know. We really read all your guys' comments. We love seeing you guys' feedback and thoughts, and we want to hear more from you guys. We're trying to build a nice community around this stuff and really love hearing just what everyone has to say, their love for construction, all that. And we love sharing our craft with you. So please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. It means a lot to us, guys. Thank you. So at this point, they're getting pretty close to finishing up all the footers on the job. And then once that's done, they're going to start some grading of the floor and just smoothing it out and getting it ready for the final slab. Here's a good angle of those two footers on the left right there. You can see that they're doing the forms for the footer walls that they're going to pour. And you can see they just dump it in the back, let it cure, and then they'll rip those forms out, and then they have a final footer. Here's that again, but just from a different angle, so you can get a better idea of what's going on over there in that corner. As you may have noticed, we brought in so many bags of concrete for this, and I should have counted. It'd be fun to know how many. I want to say we brought in 1,000 bags of Quikrete for this job, but can't recommend them enough. You'll see later we use a pump truck just for the final floor, and the only reason that we use the quickcrete bags is just for pacing, because since we do it in a sequence, we're not pouring all the footers at once. We kind of have to wait. It's a timing thing. Quickcrete is really nice because we can work at our own pace in terms of when we pour these footers, but if we had a concrete truck with a pump, it'd be a little more chaotic and intense because we'd need to pour everything just so fast and in sequence. So quickcrete's really nice to just make it more relaxed, and whenever we're ready, we'll pour the concrete. I want to say here, this is the last bit of dirt that they're starting to get out, maybe a little more. Stand corrected. There's always more dirt in these basement digouts. It's kind of amazing. So like I was saying earlier, that right corner, you can see they're actually demoing the porch. I think you're gonna be able to see really good from right here in a few seconds. But like I said, that's just because the plans changed and the homeowner wanted this brought back a little bit, which is always unfortunate when we work so fast and we do work and then it has to get undone and then redone. Always a pain in the ass. So you can see that right here. They're saw cutting some more off, and you remember we just poured footers right there, so we're gonna have to just demo all the footer work that we just did and redo that. Adds time onto the job, adds more labor costs. It's just never good to have plans change on you. So this was a little frustrating to have done to us, but at least it was a small little change. Could have been a lot worse. We've had worse in the past where we have to do a whole entire list of change orders on someone just because they were wanting to fix things as we're doing them. And I want to say after they do this, this is the last footer or one of the last footers before they actually start to move on to finishing this basement, which is always fun to see. And I'll be sure to share some video that I took walking around so you can see the before and after and just how big of a difference is made. A basement digout is always amazing to see just because all this room you get under your existing house is incredible to see. So that was a really good angle of how they pour the footer right there. So hopefully you guys noticed that right there. That was really awesome, really good angle to see how they do it. They leave a little section open on the top and then they just fill the footer wall and then they take the forms off once it's cured. And with that done, I think that's the final footers, and they're just going to start to remove all the dirt out of the basement and start working on the final product here. Yep, so you can see they're starting to bring in the perimeter drain here. That's going to go to a sump pit in the back. So if any moisture does enter the basement, they're able to drain it. And that just keeps moisture from entering the basement, which is a huge plus. You don't want any moisture damage. Never a fun fix. Here's another angle of that. So like I said, it's a perimeter drain, so it goes all the way around the perimeter of the basement. And then you can see here they have tiny holes on those that water's able to enter, and then we actually do put a sleeve on that. You can't really see, but there's a sleeve on that so no dirt or filth gets in there. It's just moisture able to enter that. And then with that done, it's covered, and then the whole floor is graded nice and smooth and flat. Now, super quick here, the guys are going to add some expansion joint as well. And what this does, if you're not familiar, it stops, if the concrete wants to expand, it's going to stop it from cracking our footers. So this is just allows the slab to expand a little bit. And you can see right here, it's that black material that you just put around the perimeter. They're doing it right now. Boom, you can see they just put block outs around the temporary posts, and these are to stop concrete from curing it, so we can remove them in the future and put in the actual final posts that are going to hold up the structure. You can see here, we had someone come in and do some plumbing. This isn't our guys, this is just one of the plumber guys coming in here doing some plumbing work. So that's going to go to maybe a future toilet or bar, maybe sink, not entirely sure. They're going to make sure it's nice and flat, and then here comes a large amount of vapor barrier. So this is the same principles on the footers, just keeps all that moisture from entering, keeps it nice and sealed. Like I said before, any moisture damage should be avoided at all costs. In Denver, it's kind of nice here, we don't get too much moisture, so this should be well enough to just prevent any moisture from seeping into the basement. Here's just another angle of those guys bringing in the vapor barrier, smoothing out a little bit, finishing touches. And if you're not familiar as well, that orange tape is the same thing. It's a vapor barrier tape that they put on just to attach the segments together. All right, here's the pump truck. So we're gonna pour the slab. You can see we didn't put any rebar in the floor, and that's just because we use a special mix with microfibers that gives us the same strength as a concrete with rebar. So it's a little bit cheaper for us, makes it more economical as well as lightweight, which is always nice. That's why there's no rebar on the floor. And with that done, that's the slab poured. And that brings us to the conclusion of our segment of the basement digout. Now we'll hand it over to the home builder or the remodeler or whoever, and they're going to start framing out the basement and making it into a finished basement. So with that said, that is a basement digout in terms of the concrete, structural, and excavation part. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to share with you guys the final walkthrough of the basement, show you what it looks like now. Here's that finished product. You can see just how much of a difference it made from the gravel pit that we started with. It's a whole new basement. They have so much more square footage to mess around with down here. And now we're gonna hand it off to the builder or the contractor to frame out all this space and turn it into an actual finished basement. Hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully this was insightful on how basement digouts are done. We had a really fun time filming this and making this happen, so let us know down below what you think. We got more videos coming your way, so be sure to be on the lookout for those. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll leave you guys with the footage. Have a great rest of your day.